What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for April 30th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the podcast. Happy Humpday to everyone out there. Happy last day of April. And before we get into it, want to just, as I thought and suspected yesterday, lots of feedback both ways on my little rant about the Eagles visiting the White House. And look, it was not a political rant. The whole event was an apolitical event. And if you're looking for your political news, this is not the place for you. And I did get ripped from people on both sides saying, how could you support this? How could you support that? And look, I didn't support anything. I supported the Philadelphia Eagles and the individual players making their own individual decisions. Again, the event had zero political overtones other than the fact that it was at the White House. It was supposed to be a celebration of the Super Bowl. And truthfully, I did get one person who reached out to me and said, what do you mean you don't follow politics? Listen, I know enough about politics, but this podcast is not the place for it. I do follow things. I have my own beliefs, my own opinions. But when it comes to this podcast, strictly apolitical. This is a Philly sports-based podcast, but man, people were fired up. And look, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Kudos to you for having an opinion. It just was one of those things. I didn't feel strongly one way or the other about players going, not going. And again, kudos. I mentioned it yesterday. Players should use their platform to initiate change. If that's what Jalen was doing, good for him. If that's what Saquon was doing, good for him. But at the end of the day, this was about the Super Bowl champion Eagles being honored, going to the White House. Cool experience. Nothing political. You'll never hear me say anything political other than sticking up for educators and education. But I think if you're against education, that's a whole different ball of wax for us. But thank you for listening and having those strong opinions. It did make me feel good to see the comments flowing in. So thank you for listening. All right, Phillies. Not really sure what to make of this game. I think this game may, up until this point, 1 month into the season, been the perfect microcosm for this season. Zach Wheeler was good. The defense was absolutely horrible. The fact that they've only got scored officially, I think, for 2 errors. Hometown cooking there, I say. But a wild 7-6 walk-off wild pitch win for the Phillies. And, I mean, if you were watching this, I'll be completely honest. I was watching, went to bed when they were up, 5-2, and thought, okay, they got this. Even the Phillies bullpen can't blow this one. Boy, was I wrong. But where to start? I guess let's start with the obvious. Trey Turner and Johan Rojas' defense. You almost expect it out of Trey, but his defense was just absolutely horrible. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if it is moving him to left field, whether you swap him or Stott, but I think Stott is like a borderline Gold Glover at second. But man, this dude, and I don't know if he's in his own head or what, but sometimes it looks like he has a noodle arm. Sometimes he just throws it as hard and as fast as he can, and it's wild. I don't know what he was thinking on the play where he went home and almost threw it past JT. I don't know if he thought he stepped on second base or what. Messed up again in the 8th. And when your bullpen is struggling, you can't allow things that to happen, because Ryan Kerkering is going to look like he blew the save or whatever. But the truth of the matter is he should have been out of that inning, but Trey let him down. Obviously, he made up for it. Rojas, I don't know. Maybe he's too much in his head thinking he's Willie Mays Hayes and able to do crazy things, but he made up for it at the plate with the sac fly and the home run. So I guess you could say they got lucky that it was the Nationals and that was a wash. I question Rob Thompson not keeping Matt Strahm in at least to start the 8th inning and bringing Kerkering in. Jose Alvarado loves to live dangerously. Looked about as bad as you could be for the first 3 batters of that inning, and then was just lights out. Gave me Mitch Williams vibes, where he doesn't seem to be able to turn it on unless there's a little bit of pressure. But he looked excellent the last 3 strikeouts that he had. But leading up to that, loading the bases, I don't know. Bryce, who knows what's going on with him? Had to lay down a bunt to get a hit yesterday. Don't think it's a bad thing. I would like to see more of the hitters do that, especially if they're going to play that far back. But just a wild game. I mean, Bohm should have been thrown out on the game tying run. Was absolutely gunned. Better. I don't know whether it was the throw, the catch, whatever. So got lucky there. But, I mean, I guess you could say, as Andy Reid always used to say, anytime you win in the National Football League, I guess in this case, anytime you win in Major League Baseball, it's a good thing. They're back at it today. Christopher Sanchez will not miss a start. He'll be back on the mound tonight. But, man, what a wild one down at Citizens Bank Park. Like I said, luckily it was the Nationals, and their bullpen is actually worse than ours. So you'll take it. A win is a win, especially in April. I always say you can't lose the division or win the division in April, but you certainly can lose it. So the Phillies keeping pace as everybody in the NL East is starting to get more bunched up. I do see that spreading out more, but I don't know. I saw an interesting article from John Foley from On Pattison, and it crunched some numbers. And thankfully for the Nationals, the Phillies have been successful over the past few years. Since 2020, if you take away flip the games they've played with the Nationals, they've, I think, won 70% ever since the Nationals said we own the Phillies or whatever it is they said. The Phillies would be under 500 if they flip those games against the Nationals. So thank God for the Nationals and their team. But again, they're back at it tonight. It's Christopher Sanchez on the mound for the Phils. I don't know. I'm almost glad I fell asleep and did not see the end, because it would have definitely kept me up with a lot of heartburn and heart palpitations. But it does lead to the question of the day. We are 1 month, almost, or a little more than 1 month, but as we're closing out April today, are we overreacting to this team, good or bad? I think we've gone from, oh my goodness, they're back when they beat the Dodgers, to this team is terrible. Are we overreacting 1 month? 267-495-8531. That's the Back to the Future voice and text line. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off your chest? Personally, I think we are a little bit. I think we still have the post-Super Bowl glow of the Eagles that we're sort of expecting our teams to just be dominant. And don't get it twisted. That's exactly what the Eagles were last year. They were a dominant team. But I think we're expecting the Phillies to be that way. And baseball is a marathon, not a sprint. It is April. There's been way more bad, I think, through the first month of the season, or month and 3 days if you want to count the couple games there in March. But there have been some good things. It does seem as though they're more disciplined at the plate. Power numbers are down. They're leaving runners on base and runners in scoring position. Starting pitching, for the most part, has been pretty solid. Bullpen, other than maybe Strahm and Alvarado, has been brutal. The manager's made some questionable decisions. I think a lot of these guys are pressing. Hopefully, I always go back to what Charlie used to say. Once the weather heats up, it's going to be hitting season. Hopefully, once hitting season starts, this team will turn it around. But I think we're overreacting. But what do you think? Are we overreacting to this team 1 month into the season? They're above 500. Certainly could be well below 500. I think if they play a little bit better in some of these games, it could be a lot more over 500. So I think there's still a lot of season left to be played. But what are your thoughts? Are we overreacting to this team? Let me know what you think on there. All right. let's do some quick housekeeping as we always do. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram at Philly Jimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont, and continue to spread the word as we grow this thing. Remember, if you want to see highlights, newspaper clippings, photos from what we're talking about, hit me up on socials as well as my Facebook and LinkedIn. Like I said, a lot of good conversations happen on my Facebook page. Looking forward to starting a Discord chat in the near future. Just busy time for my day job. So once things kind of die down, I will start looking and getting that set up. Lots of good feedback from the 5 harsh truths that everybody needs to accept to become better. I'm glad people are getting something out of that. For me, when I saw this, I forget where I even saw this from now. It may have been through a work event or something, but it really is a game changer. Yesterday, we talked about things are never as good as you think they're going to be and never as worse as you fear. Maybe that's a good analogy for this Phillies team right now. They're not as good as we thought they were going to be, but maybe we're overreacting somewhat, and they're not as bad as we thought either. Little food for thought there. It is the last day of April. You know, every month we do sort of a special segment near the end of the show. This month we've been focusing on the best Eagles draft picks. We also, what did we even do at the beginning of the month? Now I can't even remember. But we're finishing up the Eagles draft pick spotlight this. Sorry about that. Things are popping up on my computer. Pandemonium here in the home studio as I'm trying to figure out what we did the first part of April. But we're finishing up the Eagles draft picks. Oh, we did the Walter French spotlight and then the missing rings piece. So we did a little bit of a potpourri this month. But for May, starting tomorrow, what we're going to do is it's going to be the summertime. Memorial Day is the unofficial start to summer. The end of the month is Memorial Day. The pool's open. People start going to the beach. And what goes better at the beach or the pool or even in your backyard? You go to the mountains, wherever you like to spend your summer, music. So we're going to create a Philly sports summer playlist for you. Every day I'll give you a new song to add to the playlist. Have a little bit of fun. All of these songs are Philly sports related. It's a good mix of genres and things like that. Something to just throw on your Spotify playlist or your Apple Music playlist and just sit back and relax for the summer. So each day throughout the month of May, we'll give you a new song. I'll tell you how it relates to Philly sports. And by the end of the month, going into June, you'll have a nice 2.5 hour summer playlist to play while you're at the beach, at the pool, in the mountains, in your backyard, whatever. So stay tuned for that starting tomorrow. All right, time for our Tankathon simulations. And it was not a good day for the teams. The Sixers did drop to the 6th pick. They did keep their pick, but I think other than not having the pick, that would be the worst case scenario. Obviously, we want them to move up. The Flyers also dropped down to 6. But again, I think for the Flyers, the scenario is a little bit different because they're keeping that pick no matter what and do have the other 2 draft picks. Coaching search, not a whole lot coming up with where they're going with it. Keep hearing Rick Tockett's name as kind of the guy they're talking about, but I haven't really heard any other candidates. They have Ian LaPerriere up in Lehigh Valley doing a good job with the Phantoms. Maybe he's an answer, and maybe that's part of why, since they're still playing. But we'll continue to update the Flyers coaching search, and we'll do another Tankathon simulation tomorrow. All right. As things calm down with the Eagles, let's recap yesterday's question of the day. And I asked you, is LaShawn McCoy a Hall of Famer? We talked about the best second-round picks of all time for the Eagles. It's what kind of surprised me at how high this number was. 79% of you said no, he is not. I think you can make a very strong case with the numbers. I would not say a first ballot Hall of Famer, but 79% is a good chunk. So I'll go with the masses here. Maybe he's not a Hall of Famer. Had a lot of Hall of Very Good, Eagles Hall of Famer, things like that. But I would have thought he would get more consideration for the Hall of Fame. But thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. Today, it's all about the Phils, though. Are we overreacting? I think we might be. And that's what we do here. That's what we do in Philly. And I think had the Eagles... and who knows? Actually, maybe if the Eagles didn't win the Super Bowl, maybe we'd be overreacting even more. I don't know. You want to get that out too? Let me know your thoughts on the Back to the Future voice and text line. And then go support my friends at the Clashing Conferences podcast. Great things happening with their sports fan network. Go to theclashingconferences.com for details about what they have to offer, how you can get involved, and then check out their podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. Some great guys over there, great content. It's fun, good banter, so be sure to support them. And then do some shopping. The weather, we're creating a playlist throughout the month of May. Get some gear for the summer. Shirts, shoes, whatever you need, they got you covered. I told you about the partnership with Jordan Spector and Spector Art. Check out some of the artwork. Get the rocks glasses. Whatever you got to do, go to Philly Goat. And again, I keep telling you this, but check out everything they have on their sites, because as they add new stuff, some things get pushed to the bottom, and everything they have is great. So go to Philly Goat. Be sure to use the promo code Jim Montgomery when you check out to take 10% off of your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. All right, so April 30th was a very interesting and unique day in Phillies sports history, or Phillies history, I should say. So we got a little bit of a triple header today, little quick hitters here. And first, we're going to go all the way back to 1887. And on this day in 1887, the Phillies beat the New York Giants 15-9 in the first ever game at the Baker Bowl. The Baker Bowl was located on 15th and Broad, in between 15th and Broad, just south of Lehigh. Lots of great things over the years there. It was host to the Negro World Series. Babe Ruth played his last ever game there. Excuse me. The Phillies called it home until 1938. Kind of was one of those stadiums that just became dilapidated. They ended up moving into Shibe Park with the A's, and then the Eagles played there from 1933 to 1935. It was the Eagles' first home. But on this day in 1887, the first game ever played at the Baker Bowl, there is a historical marker there, and I believe, if memory serves me correct, the spot where the Baker Bowl was is now a car wash. So they're on North Broad between 15th and Broad Street, just south of Lehigh. Baker Bowl opened on this day in 1887. Fast forward to 1961, and the Phillies overcame a 6-0 deficit to beat the Cardinals 11-7 in 10 innings. In the top of the eighth, they were down 6-0. Manager Gene Mock said, you know what? The starters aren't doing it. Let me see who can pinch hit. He used 5 pinch hitters in that inning, a team record, to score 7 runs and help the Phillies overcome that 6-0 deficit to beat the Cardinals. But 5 pinch hitters in an inning to overcome the deficit. Hey, if the starters aren't doing it, maybe we need some of that from Rob Thompson. And then we're going to fast forward all the way to 2021. Phillies beat the Mets 2-1 while only getting 3 hits. Both of their runs were scored on a strikeout. Chase Anderson, who was pitching that day, struck out. The ball got away from the catcher. Brad Miller and Andrew Knapp both scored, giving the Phillies a 2-0 lead. They would hold on to win 2-1 while only getting 3 hits, while both runs were scored on a strikeout. So an interesting day in Phillies history. The Baker Bowl opened in 1897. Phillies beat the Cardinals in 1961. Gene Mock used 5 pinch hitters in the top of the 8th inning to help overcome that deficit. And then in 2021, Phillies beat the Mets without even having an RBI. Both runs scored on a dropped third strike. You got all that? Good. All right, and then finally, let's end out our Eagles draft picks, best picks by round, I should say. go with the first round. And the first round for the Eagles in their history has been a mixed bag. We've done it before on this podcast where we talk about the worst first round picks, but in an effort to try to practice what I preach and flip it over to New Philly, we've been doing the best draft picks by round for the month of April. And the first round, like I said, as much as there was a lot of misses, the Eagles have had a lot of hits. Just from this past season team, the Super Bowl 59 champions, you had Quinyon Mitchell in 2024, Jalen Carter in 23, Nolan Smith in 23 as well, Jordan Davis in 22, Devontae Smith in 21, all Super Bowl champions on this year's team. We talked about Carson Wentz the other day going first in the first round, number 2 overall in 2016. Lane Johnson, Eagles two-time champion, Super Bowl 52 and 59, was a first-round pick in 2013. Fletcher Cox in 2012. Brandon Graham in 2010. And then go all the way back to 2002. Lito Shepherd was the first-round pick. I remember, very controversial. The Eagles took 3 straight defensive backs when they had Bobby Taylor, Troy Vincent, Brian Dawkins, and I think it was Al Harris was the other safety on that team. Trey Thomas back in 1998. Keith Jackson, tight end, out of Oklahoma in 1988. Everybody's favorite color commentary on the Eagles radio broadcast, Mike Quick, was also one hell of a receiver. He was drafted in the first round in 1982. A couple of Super Bowl 15 teammates, Jerry Robinson, who happened to be the last linebacker the Eagles took in the first round before this year, back in 1979, and Jerry Sizemore in 1973. Both of them played in Super Bowl 15. And then Hall of Famer Bob Brown started out with the Eagles. He was a first-round pick of the Eagles in 1964. All right, so the guys I'm going to spotlight today, I included 4 because I couldn't figure out which one of these guys to leave off the list. I've been doing 3, but hey, we'll do 4 because I think one of the rounds we did 2, so it kind of will even out somewhat. And as we've been doing, I'll do it in order of which they were drafted. First, back in 1944, the Eagles selected Steve Van Buren, a running back, number 5 overall. All he did was become a 2-time NFL champion, 7-time All-Pro, led the league in rushing 4 times, rushing touchdowns 4 times. He's on the 1940s NFL All-Decade team. He's on the NFL's All 75th and 100th anniversary teams. He's on the Eagles' 75th anniversary team. He is a Pro Football Hall of Famer, a Philadelphia Sports Hall of Famer. His number 15 hangs up in the upper bowl of the link. He was the all-time NFL rushing leader upon his retirement. He's currently number 4 all-time on the Eagles' all-time rushing list. Steve Van Buren, selected number 5 in 1944. And then we go to quite possibly the greatest Eagle of all time, certainly on the Mount Rushmore, and that's Chuck Bednarik, linebacker center, drafted number 1 overall out of Penn in 1949. He also is a 2-time champion. He was on that 1949 championship team, but he was a 10-time All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler. He was on the 1950s NFL All-Decade team. He's on the 50th, 75th, and 100th anniversary teams all time for the NFL. Obviously, the Eagles' 75th anniversary team. He's in their Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. His number 60 also hangs up next with the retired numbers with Steve Van Buren. One hell of a player, one of the last of the two-way players. All-time NFL tough guy. We talked about the story that he retired, came back, and helped lead the Eagles to that 1960s championship. One of the greatest nicknames in Philadelphia sports of all time, Concrete Charlie, because he was a concrete salesman. But Chuck Bednarik, drafted number 1 overall in 1949 by the Eagles out of Penn. And we're going to go to 1987, and Jerome Brown, drafted number 9 overall out of Miami. 2-time All-Pro, 2-time Pro Bowler. He's also on the Eagles' 75th anniversary team. He's in the Eagles Hall of Fame. His number 99 hangs up in the upper bowl of the link alongside Steve Van Buren and Chuck Bednarik. Unfortunately for him, a tragic ending to his life when he died in that car crash in the 91 off season. But his career trajectory, he was on his way to being one of the all-time greats. Just a sad ending. He was just an outstanding player. Career cut way too short. Was well on his way to becoming a Hall of Famer. So Jerome Brown, number 9 overall in 1987. And then finally, one of my all-time favorite Eagles, Donovan McNabb, drafted number 2 overall out of Syracuse in 1999. 6-time Pro Bowler. He's on the Eagles' 75th anniversary team. He is an Eagles Hall of Famer, a Philadelphia Sports Hall of Famer, Eagles all-time leader in yards and touchdown passes, and for my money, still to this day, the greatest Eagles quarterback in history. Will be overtaken by Jalen Hurts, possibly within the next year or two. But for now, I would still put Donovan as number 1. Led them to 5 NFC championship games, 1 Super Bowl appearance. But of course, it was just a career of unfulfilled expectations as he kind of let his ego get in the way. His number 5 is also retired up there in the upper bowl. So 4 guys with their numbers retired for the Eagles, all first-round picks. You can make the argument that Donovan also belongs on the Mount Rushmore of Eagles. Steve Van Buren, you can make the argument. It's something I'm thinking about doing. Everybody else does it, so why don't I do a Mount Rushmore this summer? So stay tuned for that. But all-time Eagles first-round draft picks, Steve Van Buren, Chuck Bednarik, Jerome Brown, and Donovan McNabb. All 4 of them have their numbers retired. That's why I chose them. You could make the case for Lane. Lane will definitely have his number up there at some point. Who knows with some of the younger guys like Quinyon, Jalen, Devontae. BG probably won't get his number up there. Neither will Fletch. But some great first-round picks. And we always talk about, like I said, the misses that the Eagles have had in the first round. But they've had quite a few hits. So that concludes our best Eagles draft picks by round. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Going back through April, we had our sit down with Lenny Wagner talking about Walter French. Then we did some missing rings, guys who should have won championships in Philly, or at least we wish we did, and ended it with the draft pick spotlight. But it's all about the music. We're going to get the summer vibe starting tomorrow. It's going to be May, so let's get that summertime Philly sports-related playlist going. So by the end of the month, you can sit on the beach and just chill. On this day in 1887, the Baker Bowl opened. In 61, the Phillies beat the Cardinals 11-7 in 10 innings. Gene Mauch used 5 pinch hitters in the 8th inning to help overcome a 6-0 deficit. And then in 2021, Phils beat the Mets without an RBI. Both of their runs scored when pitcher Chase Anderson struck out and the ball got away. We will have another Tankathon simulation tomorrow. Hopefully the Phillies do not have as wild of a game as they did today, but of course we will recap that. If anything comes up with the Flyers coaching search or Eagles and Dallas Goedert, Eagles and whoever, we will have you covered for that. But I'm excited to start the playlist. Have a little bit of fun here in May. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for April 30th, 2025. My name's Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Wednesday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.